Acadians. The first French colonies were along the eastern coast. This region was called Acadia in French and Acadia in English. Acadia included parts of modern-day New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. Acadia's first capital was Port Royal. Colonists founded other centers beyond Port Royal, including Beaubassin and Grand Pré. The Acadians had strong alliances with the two main indigenous nations in the area, the Mi'kmaq and the Malecite, with whom they exchanged goods and knowledge. The Acadians were resilient and learned how to survive. They were self-reliant and farmed, hunted, fished, and trapped. They learned to work with the natural marshes in the area, building dikes which were large grass-covered mounds of dirt, and albichus. These were drainage systems with doors to allow excess water to drain. Acadians have a tumultuous history of war and conflict. The French and British repeatedly alternated control over the lands. Because of this, Acadians considered themselves to be neutral and did not take sides. They did not see themselves as French or British. They had an identity of their own. In 1713, a peace treaty was signed between the British and the French called the Treaty of Utrecht. This treaty gave the British control over much of Acadia. Acadians worked hard to preserve their culture, language, and way of life. England demanded that the Acadians pledge loyalty to them. However, the Acadians only promised to remain neutral. The British threatened the Acadians with deportation if they refused to pledge loyalty. Eventually, the Acadians reluctantly accepted to pledge an unconditional oath of allegiance. The British were not satisfied with the Acadians' reluctance and decided to deport them anyway. Acadians were deported by ship to different English colonies across the Atlantic Ocean to Europe. Many people tried hiding and escaping to French territory. The majority of the Acadian population was deported. This was a devastating time for Acadians, with many dying of hunger, disease, and at sea. Some Acadians were able to resettle. These were mostly people who had been in exile, escaped deportation, or were released from prison. They were permitted to resettle only after giving an oath of allegiance to Britain. The way of life for the Acadians changed. A large majority settled in eastern New Brunswick. Presented with less fertile land, many Acadians turned to forestry and fishing. Slowly, French language institutions began to open up, including schools and newspapers. Cajuns. The term Acadian transformed into Cajun in the United States. The Cajuns include descendants of those exiled from Acadia living in the U.S. state of Louisiana, the Canadian Maritimes, and Quebec. There are 1.2 million Cajuns today. After expulsion to English colonies in the United States, many Acadians made their way to Louisiana. Today, Cajuns have their own culture, including unique cuisine and music. Acadians today. The Acadians continue to celebrate their unique culture and way of life. Watch the following video summarizing the history of Acadia and Acadia as it is today.